There's a famous story often told in the subcontinent. A son in a moment of anger is about to throw his father off a bridge into a river. Just before it happens, the old man stops him and says, "Take me a little further ahead. Not here, this is where I once threw my own father." And somehow that same cycle, that same story, seems to be unfolding within the Beckham family.
Our priorities are always going to be our families.
David Beckham was not only a player on the field, he was one off it as well.
The Beckhams have built a phenomenal global brand.
David Beckham's a very charismatic guy.
So shocked that Brooklyn did that post.
You never want your kids to leave home. I want them to stay with me the whole time.
Welcome to the Sleuthing Scams, and today we will be talking about the burden of being a Beckham. It takes a lot of effort, time and heart to bring these videos for you, so kindly hit that subscribe button. David Edward Allen Ted Beckham was a simple kitchen fitter in London, living a modest life. But on May 2nd, 1975, the day his son was born, he held on to a dream that felt almost impossible, to one day see his boy play for England, and for his beloved Manchester United. It cost him everything: time, energy, years of relentless effort, but somehow he made it real. And yet when that same son had one of the biggest moments of his life, signing for Real Madrid, he wasn't even invited. Why? Because Ted had published a book, David Beckham, My Son, without ever consulting him. To David, it wasn't just a book, it was a betrayal. Now fast forward to January 2026. For years, the Beckham family had been seen as the perfect family, admired across the world. To the world, the Beckham family weren't just celebrities, they were a symbol of the perfect modern family. Built on love, loyalty, and strong values, their image felt almost untouchable. People didn't just follow them, they admired them, even idealised what they stood for. But in January 2026, everything changed. Because that's when Brooklyn Beckham, the eldest son of David Beckham, took to Instagram and shared a 6-page statement. In it, he claimed he was cutting ties with the Beckham family, saying he was tired of being controlled. But was he really controlled? To understand that, we need to go back in time. But before we get into that, let's take a quick detour. We're talking about quantum computing, a technology that's set to completely reshape the future of global finance. From breaking traditional encryption to unlocking unimaginable processing power, this isn't just the future, it's already beginning. If you want to truly understand what's coming, you'll find a link in the description to one of the most in-depth courses available online. This course breaks down complex ideas into simple, powerful concepts, showing you how quantum computing works, why it matters, and how it could impact everything from your money to the global economy. It's not just information, it's a glimpse into the next era of technology. David Beckham was unstoppable, a global sensation in motion. England saw echoes of legends like Bobby Charlton and George Best in him. While for millions around the world, he was the ultimate heartthrob. He became the John Lennon of football. And he also had Victoria Beckham on his side, one of the very few women who could truly match, and even challenge, his charisma. But it wasn't always like this. Just a few years earlier, David Beckham had gone from a rising star to the most hated man in England after his red card in the 1998 FIFA World Cup, a moment that ended with England crashing out against Argentina national football team on penalties. At just 23, he was torn apart by the media. The Daily Mirror headline read, 10 heroic lions and 1 stupid boy. The broadcast media made fun of him. The Sun called it the moment of madness. It didn't stop there were even death threats. And the truth is, he didn't know how to handle any of it. Teammates later revealed he had no one to turn to. It was just hatred, coming from every direction. But all of that taught David Beckham a powerful lesson. It made him realise that celebrity life is nothing like a normal life. And from that point on, he began to reshape his public image. Understanding PR long before it became a buzzword, with Victoria Beckham right by his side. In the very next World Cup, the same son that once called Beckham mad was now asking people to pray for him. Queen was asking about him. Everything he did it for the PR. But then came the children. The children never chose this life. They were born into it. Every moment, every mistake, every emotion was watched and judged by the world. And while their parents learned how to control the spotlight, the kids were left to grow up inside it. Brooklyn Beckham arguably had it the hardest. He was the first son of the David Beckham. He was in the headlines even before he was born, and without realising it, his entire teenage life became a constant attempt to live up to the aura his parents had built. He couldn't live a normal life even if he wanted to. His reality was only being called a Nepo baby. For the world, Beckham wanted their kids to live a normal life, and that's why Brooklyn's first job was working at a coffee shop. But again, it was all PR. Later, he tried to follow in his father's footsteps, joining the youth academy at Arsenal FC. Yet it seemed having the Beckham name wasn't enough to inherit the talent. He was eventually let go by the club. But as we've mentioned, there was no such thing as a normal life for the Beckhams. Expectations were sky high, and he was expected to meet them. So, Brooklyn Beckham turned to modelling, appearing in magazines like Vogue, Dazed, and the New York Times. Your father's name could open doors to all these high-profile gigs, but could you actually keep them? Brooklyn struggled to make his mark in modelling as well, but being a Beckham meant one thing: he had to achieve something big, and then he changed his profession to become a photographer, and within months, he got to shot a campaign for Burberry. He ruffled the feathers of hundreds of British photographers who had been grinding for years. But the question is, did Brooklyn Beckham really want to take their opportunities, or was it a path he never truly chose for himself? Fashion photographer Chris Floyd called it the devaluation of photography and a lack of respect for the professionals. And within a few years, he struggled to make it in photography too. But being a Beckham meant failure was never really an option. So Brooklyn Beckham reinvented himself again, this time as a professional chef. Within months, he had his own show featuring famous guests. But that too fell flat. But by January 2026, it seemed like Brooklyn had finally had enough of the weight that came with being a Beckham. That's when he took to Instagram and posted a 6-page statement, claiming he was done being controlled. He went further, announcing he was cutting ties with the Beckham family and telling his parents to contact him only through lawyers. He even described the family as being built on inauthentic relationships. And maybe that's where the real story begins, because this was never just about fame or failure or even family drama. It was about identity. When you're born into a name as powerful as the Beckham family, your life is almost pre-written. Every move is compared, every decision is judged, and every failure feels louder than it actually is. You're not just living your life, you're living up to a legacy. And sometimes, that legacy can feel more like a cage than a privilege. For Brooklyn Beckham, the question was never, what do I want to be? It was always, what can I become that lives up to Beckham? And that's a question with no easy answer, because no matter what path you choose, it will always be measured against something bigger than you. And maybe that's why this story feels so familiar. Not because we're all famous, but because, in some way, we all carry expectations that aren't truly ours. Expectations from family, from society, from the image we're supposed to maintain. But breaking away from that comes at a cost. Sometimes it costs relationships, sometimes it costs your image, and sometimes it costs the very thing you were trying to protect all along. So the real question isn't whether the Beckhams are breaking down, it's whether this was always inevitable. Subscribe to our channel and don't forget to click the bell icon